Hey, this is Shaun with the Go Tennis Podcast, powered by Signature Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And if you're a fan of Bull Shark Sports, go to shop.letsgotennis.com and get yourself a hoodie or a hat. Today, this is Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. Today, Coach Ben wants to talk about habits for thinking outside the box. Ben, you want to be ready to talk youth sports?
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right, Coach Ben today has some ideas for some simple but different and very impactful habits that are, quote, outside the box. So, Ben, since anything outside the box should be impossible for me to guess, where do you want to start?
Well, I figured you'd enjoy this conversation, Shaun. I mean, you're a man who thinks outside the box. You think differently. That's why you've created Go Tennis, and that's why you've just recently created a new platform, a network association for us coaches, and that's the American Racket Sports Association. So encompasses not just tennis, but all our racket sports. So shout out to you for that, but you're a guy who loves to think differently, and so I hope you feel like you contribute a lot to the conversation I want to have today, and how in the youth sports realm we can think outside the box. I find that a lot of times with youth sports, they're just basically a carbon copy of the way the adults might play the sport, and that's not necessarily the best for our kids. And I want to give another shout out and kind of start today's conversation with my local league, DHYS Softball, Druid Hills Youth Sports Softball League, and they do a great job with their 10 and well, they do a great job with all their age groups. They do a really great job with their 10 and under league. And for those of you who are not familiar, in baseball and softball, when they get to be 9 and 10 years old, that's when they move from coach pitch to kid pitch or player pitch. And those of you who've experienced it like me, you watch your kids play in coach pitch, and it's pretty fast paced and intense. And I mean intense in a good way. It's very fun and exciting. And then they go to where now we're going to let the kids pitch for the first time, and it goes to a staggering halt and is super slow. We all joke about it, like, just so slow. The kids are having trouble pitching. They can't. There's a lot of walks. So to that point, our local league DHYS said, you know what, 10 under girls softball, there's no walks. And so what they do is the kids still pitch, but when there's three balls on the batter, the coach comes in and finishes the count for the pitcher. And I've watched a few softball games at DH West. This happens quite a bit, honestly, as you can imagine, for what I just said. It's difficult to pitch, and girls walk a lot, or they would walk a lot, unless you had a no walk rule like our league does. And so, if it's whatever the count is, the coach comes in and occupies the count, and the girl gets the number of strikes that she would have gotten, based on the count. So if it's a 3-1 count, three balls, one strike, coach comes in because there's three balls on the batter. Then now the girl gets two strikes. Okay, and most of the time the girl puts the ball in play. So now not only does the girl get to practice the skill of hitting, which is what she really wants to do, the defense now gets some action and gets to practice playing defense rather than a kid just walking to first base. So it really, really changes the landscape of that and the scope of that game, of that sport. And those coaches do a great job of making sure the kids not only are enjoying the 10 and under at the moment sport, but they're put that rule in place of no walks that sets up for development that's going to help them down the road.
And I like the way you use the word intense because we've had a conversation recently about a new tennis league that is thinking outside the box and trying to narrow down, make things move quicker, make things more efficient, more fun, more team oriented. Because it's difficult to take things that we've done for thousands of years and make them better because you have to change them. When you change them, people don't like change. So we like to think outside the box because what we assume is it's within reach of the box. It can't be too different. I saw
Right.
a video, Ben, the other day, and it was girls playing volleyball on what looked like a small soccer court. And the ball had to bounce in between them hitting the ball, and they were only able to hit it with one arm. It was called fist ball or something German, the Faustball was it. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, it's volleyball, but it's weird volleyball, and it looked like fun. It looked like something more of like what a family would do. These girls just happen to be really good at it. But it's enough change, it's enough something different that says, okay, let's make it outside the box, but not too far to freak people out.
Was this an alteration of volleyball
I think it
or
was something that's been
something
around
completely
for a
different?
long time. I
Yeah.
just never potentially have heard of it.
Okay, because I could see in volleyball, like playing the ball comes over the net, you're trying to bump it or play it out of the air. Maybe that's too difficult. Maybe it bounces first. I don't know. I'm totally making this up on the spot. Maybe it bounces too high, and that is actually more difficult. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes we I know in practices I'm gonna come up with this rule that's gonna help the kids, and I do it, and I'm like, oh, actually that made it that made it more difficult. I thought it was gonna make it easier.
Yeah,
You know, I always thought in like T-ball, for example, like why don't we have 12 players on a team? Why not five or six? I mean, the ball rarely gets hit to the outfield. So why are these kids just standing out there where the ball's never going to be? Just have infielders. And then those kids on five or six kids get to bat more often because they're not having to wait for the team's cut in half essentially.
that makes me think of the indoor soccer concept where you've got a 5-on-5 and it's just bang, 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 bang all the time. And it's something to do for every player rather than saying, okay, kids, let's go play some real soccer. And you got the one kid in the corner picking his nose, and they just run around in bunches. And
Yeah.
what did you say earlier in a conversation? The left defender never touches the ball the whole game. And
Yeah, I mean,
it's
there were
cool.
games where I mean, my daughter played, and while I appreciated the soccer league she played in, while I appreciated the coach's effort in teaching all the girls the positions and playing 11v11 quote real soccer, yeah, if she's playing left defender, I mean, ball might come in her, and she has to stay right. She can't go run because that's somebody else's position on the field. She has to stay in her little spot and wait for the ball to come to her, and it may come to her. The action may come to her two, three times a game. Whereas when she played, it was in the winter. She played a winter league, and it's a version of futsal, but it was actually soccer. It was just small-sided or short-sided soccer. It's 5v5 with the goalies. There's six kids on the field, five are playing, and six is the six is the goalie. She loved it because it's free, it's open, it's half the size. So if there is a breakaway, I mean, how many kids you're gonna have a breakaway, quote breakaway, and the kid is exhausted. I've seen
They're
like
done.
8-year-olds fall down because they're having to dribble the ball 30 yards. Like they're gassed.
Yep.
So you have, and the scoring, right? We like to score a lot. So my daughter would play games on 11v11 at 8 years old, and the score's like 1-0.
Yeah.
Whereas you play 5v5, and we're talking scores are like 12-10 in
Yeah.
an hour game.
And how it should be, because the kids need to experience the sport, not just stand on the field near
Yeah.
it.
And get the skills, right? I remember reading years ago, I think it was the Talent Code, or maybe it was Outliers, one of the two. And it talked about the national Brazilian soccer program in Brazil had won so many World Cups at that time, and how they did play futsal a lot, but they also played small size soccer. And what they learned is how to defend in small spaces and how to play offense and get out of small spaces. And so when they get to 11v11, and some teams trying to triple team you, you're like, whatever, dude, I'm used to this. I play futsal, I play small size soccer. We're all jammed in there together, and I'm very comfortable dribbling the soccer ball around a ton of people. And they got really good at that, and that transferred to the bigger stage, if you will, where they played 11v11 on the full size field on the World Cup stage. So these things, and that's the thing about thinking outside the box, is not only is it going to make it enjoyable now, it's also going to give you skills that scale that are going to help you later on in higher levels of competition.
So we want to talk about habits. Are we creating a habit of thinking outside the box, or do we have some habits that can keep us focused on trying to pay attention to those things? Outside the box is usually kind of a one-off. It's usually a aha moment, right? It's not necessarily a habit.
Um, it can be a habit if you're looking for that. If you're in the mindset of that, we talk about having a growth mindset. That's a habit. I'm going to have a growth mindset. It's not something I can't just like, I have a growth mindset now. Like, you can't do that. It's a tough conversation. It's a hard, uh, it's a very difficult concept to exercise regularly, and especially when everything ends up having a winner and a loser, right? I mean, that's competition, right? You get somebody wins, somebody doesn't win, and that's how it is. But we gotta have a growth mindset about that. So the same thing with thinking outside the box. I got it. That can be a habit where I'm looking at a situation and thinking, how can I make this situation better? How can I make this situation more enjoyable and more developmentally appropriate for the people that I'm working with? I mean, softball did a great thing. I mean, it had to be does and you like you just said, thinking outside the box, just a little bit outside the box. Like, hey, what if? I mean, I can just imagine these guys because I know a lot of them. Like, sit around like going, hey, okay, there's a lot of walks in this game, and some guys probably just like, whoa, why don't we just have a coach come in and pitch? That'll solve it. And you're like, yeah, brilliant, John. Like that's probably how it started, and they're like. That's great. It totally changes the scope of that sport and the enjoyment that the girls have playing it and the development that they're going to get. And that's what we're talking about. And so it's got to be simple. It can't be like too complex to where like no one understands it
Mhm.
or it's so far removed from the actual game.
I have an idea.
All right.
As a soccer guy and a striker, so sticking the ball in the goal is my thing.
What you do, yeah.
Clearly, I'm going to pick an offensive rule to change. And what's the biggest complaint about soccer, especially
Oh,
from
I know
Americans?
what you're gonna say. And by the way, I think I'm gonna hear you say it. I'm gonna let you say it, and I'm gonna say they don't have that in small side soccer.
Uh huh. So, no, the cherry picking is a problem. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going that far. But if we adjust the offside rule, and we adjust it just enough to where
Yeah.
you don't take back every goal that happens because my nose was just in front of the guy. So now we have a magic way to draw a line where my toe is just past the guy and my beautiful goal that was amazing and everybody celebrated now doesn't count. Now I'm talking at the highest levels, at the elite levels. Watching a lot of MLS this year, following the Atlanta United, hoping they'll win a game or two. But it's you change that one little thing, and what do? You fix the complaint that is American complaint about soccer is not enough scoring. It's boring. Okay, I'm done convincing people that soccer is interesting without scoring. This little change makes a game 7-6, 8-4,
Well, it just makes it less arbitrary, right?
at
Like
least three to
there's
two.
nothing worse. And now we have video review. Not we don't want to dive into the weeds in the show that's supposed to be wrapped up in 20 minutes or less.
Right.
But yeah, that sucks, right? Like maybe you're driving down, you're dribbling down to make the winning. You're going to score the winning goal, and then you get an offsides penalty, and it's negated, and your team loses. You're like, well, how is this guy's decision? Like, I think your foot was farther forward than the ball was. So in small side soccer, they don't have offsides. It's actually it's too it would and you couldn't have it because it's the game is so action packed because these kids are playing 5v5 on a probably 50-yard at most field.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's 30 or 40 yards. So this is so quick
Yeah.
that you'd be impossible to accurately call something like that.
Yeah, agreed. But that's my outside the box idea, which isn't new. I've been screaming that for 20 years. But
Well, think
I like.
about let's another sport. Like, what about tennis? Like tennis, and not just the thing about how. And we've had a episode before. One of our first episodes of Youth Sports Talk, by the way, was about what if we made junior team tennis like other youth sports,
Yeah,
and where we all go to one location and play. We kind of make junior Alta and junior USTA team tennis is the same as adult tennis, but the problem is youth sports don't operate that way.
right.
So you're
Sure.
having a club v club type competition like adults would. Why don't we do it like other youth sports? Like we all go to the same local park or we all go to the same tennis center and we can even have drafts of teams like we do for baseball and softball. And that way the teams are a little bit more even. Everybody comes to one place to play. There's this nice festive atmosphere, like going to a ballpark on a Saturday and there's all the fields are going with kids playing. It's super fun. And tennis could use that for sure.
Yeah.
So I've said that for when we had a conversation about it, obviously an episode about it. Go back on YouTube, everybody, and look at that episode. It was a good one. But no, they one thing that tennis could use is that, but also like think about with modifications in tennis, like why does orange ball tennis have to be why does it have to be why not just applied to 10 and unders? Why does it have to be just for 10 and under kids? Why couldn't it be for what if your kid's just turned 11 and now he or she has to go play green ball on a full size court? Like their level is orange ball. That's what level they are. I'll give you another company that I hope does a lot of good work with this. They've started it. UTR has actually come out with ball color levels, or they call it ball color ratings. And so it's because UTR does a great thing. They think outside the box, and UTR has their junior tournaments are usually half day, modified scoring. It goes really fast, and matches are 45 minutes to an hour. You play multiple matches in one day. They do either round robin or compass draw. So even though UTR itself is a rating and you can group kids by level, they drill that down even further with a compass draw. So you're going to over time play kids equal to you, and the matches are super competitive. And now, but it was all regular ball, so you kind of had to wait till you were the level of a regular ball, yellow ball regulation court player to play these events. Now they've got the color ball events where now you can do a color ball rating starting at red, then go orange, then green, and work your way into the full size court, which is awesome. And
I know. You and I see. We should have adult red ball,
dude,
36 foot
why
court,
not?
adult red ball, competitive. Like you and me, 5.0 adult red ball. We got to play. I think I just invented spec tennis. All right, never mind. Like I
Yeah.
think that thing
Yeah,
already
yeah,
exists.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. No, but like just I think to sum this up, just another one comes to mind, 3v3 basketball, right? 3v3 basketball playing sideways, not the full length of the court, but playing 3v3 basketball, you're getting more touches on the ball. You're getting so your skill development's going to increase. There's a lot less chaos going on with three people, obviously, than five people. And so I think really the point of this conversation today is just throw some examples out there and just challenge you as a parent, challenge us as coaches, as organizers, anybody out there listening that runs local league programs, that runs clubs and facilities, that's in charge of associations that offer youth sports. Just think of thinking outside the box a little bit. It doesn't have to look like it does on TV. It's not going to look like that. And what can you do to make it enjoyable right now for the kids, but then also have a developmental component to it that's going to help them apply skills that they're going to need when they get to higher levels of competition.
And if you can't think outside the box or you want some help, the Coach Ben and Coach Shaun Youth Sports Talk consulting firm is available
Yes.
at
Yeah.
an extremely affordable rate right now.
Yeah. We're happy to have somebody buy me lunch
Exactly.
or a hot cup of coffee or ice cold beer, and I'm happy to just spill out all my youth sports opinions at you.
Trust me, you can afford Ben. Well, Ben, I appreciate it. As always, this has been Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hesley. Thank you, sir. We'll see you next week.
All right. Think outside the box, everyone.